Hello everyone, welcome to Study Room. This is Ankesha, your biology educator, and in this chapter we will be studying about sustainable management of natural resources. So let us see what we have in this chapter. As we all know that we, the humans and nature, we coexist together and we live on this planet. We are living in harmony with nature and it is not very new to us, right? Sustainable living has always been an integral part of India's tradition and culture. It has been integrated with our long lasting traditions and practices, customs, art, and crafts, festivals, food, beliefs, rituals, and folklore. Ingrained within us is the philosophy that entire natural world be in harmony, which is reflected in the famous phrase in Sanskrit, Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. That means the entire earth is one family. The phrase is mentioned in Maha-Upanishad that is probably a part of the ancient Indian text called the Atharvaveda. So what do we actually mean by these natural resources? Resources that exist in nature without any action of humankind are known as the natural resources. The resources that are directly given to us by nature and we use them, right? So, such kind of resources like solar energy, water resources, precious metals or minerals, crude oil, land resources, natural gas, animal resources, forest resources, wind power, all these are the kinds of and examples of natural resources. And we somehow or the other use all these resources, like many of these resources in our daily lives, right? So these are the kind of resources that we get from nature and are known as natural resources, and they exist in nature as well. Now, talking about renewable energy, we know that there are certain kinds of energy called as a renewable energy which can be renewed, and they never, they never get over, right? And they have a characteristic of getting replenished anytime soon, right? So they get replenished with time. So if you use them, they will never get over. So that is how we can always say that renewable energy is a very very important source of energy, which we can use till millennia, right? So that is how we understand that this kind of energy is very very important and is very useful to the human race. So, if we understand the kinds of renewable energy, we will get to know that we have certain kinds of renewable energy like solar energy, geothermal energy, waste energy, wind energy, biofuels, wood, hydroelectric energy. All these are renewable energy. Now, talking about the natural resources, we have the two kinds of energies called as the renewable resources and the non-renewable resources. The resources that we get from nature, right? And these are divided into two kinds, that is renewable and non-renewable. Now, renewable resources are the resources that are not limited in supply and can be replenished as they are used. For example, sunlight, water, air, etc. All these examples, as we can see, all these resources are, they are not limited in supply and they can be replenished with time. If you use them up, they can be replenished very easily. But there are certain kind of resources that are known as non-renewable resources, and these resources are limited in supply and cannot be replenished within a short period of time. And that is why the examples of these resources are coal, petroleum, etc. Now, pollution is a global level problem. There are many national and international laws and acts to protect the environment. Awareness about the problems caused by unthinkingly exploiting our resources has been a fairly recent phenomena in our society. And once this awareness rises, some action is usually taken. So we need to understand that we cannot just use up these resources and we cannot exploit these resources, and that is how we have to come up with new ideas how we can actually manage these resources and we can use them wisely, because some of these resources are non-renewable, and if we use up these resources, these cannot be replenished within a short period of time, right? So, keeping that in mind, we have the Ganga Action Plan. So, what happened in the Ganga Action Plan was it was a multi-crore project which came about in 1985 because the quality of the water in the Ganga was very poor. We know that Ganga is a Indian river, and the quality of Ganga was very poor because there were a group of bacteria present which were known as coliform bacteria, which are usually found in human intestine. So the coliform bacteria, those were present in these Ganga waters, they indicated the contamination by disease causing microorganisms. So there were certain disease causing microorganisms, and those were known as the coliform bacteria. As you can see here, these are the activities that we generally go and do on the Ganga Ghat, right? So, they found that there were certain bacteria here, and these bacteria were known as the coliform bacteria, right? So, now talking about these, we have the pollution in the Ganga river. When we found bacteria, we understood that there is a certain amount of pollution in Ganga, and that is how we understood that there were largely untreated sewage which were dumped into the Gangas every day. In addition, the pollution were caused by human activities like bathing, washing of clothes, and immersion of ashes, etc. Industries contribute chemical effluents to the Ganga's pollution load, and the toxicity kills fish and large sections of the river. So we understood the gravity of the problem, that this pollution that were there in the Ganga waters was very, very harmful to humans as well as to other animals like fishes that were present in the river, and the fishes were dying in large number, right? So this actually alarmed us, and we launched the Namami Gange program, which is a mission, which is an integrated conservation mission approved as a flagship program by the Union Government of India in June 2014. So it was launched to accomplish the twin objectives of effective abatement of pollution, conservation and rejuvenation of the Ganga river waters. So there are certain measurable factors which are used to quantify pollution or the quality of the water that we use for various activities, and hence those we quantified the pollution, and some of the pollutants were found to be harmful even when present in very small quantities, and we required the sophisticated equipment to measure them, right? The pH of the water can easily be checked using universal indicators. So we performed all these activities, and we actually calculated the amount or the pollution of Ganga river, and we found all these results there, that there were untreated sewage that were dumped in the Gangas, there were human activities like bathing, washing of clothes, and all these added to the pollution, and with that we had a huge load of chemical effluents that were flowing into the Ganga river from the industry. So all of these factors added to the pollution of Ganga. So we will be talking about, when we talked about all these pollutions and everything and the management of natural resources, we'll be talking about the 5 R's that can help to save the environment. So what are those 5 R's? The 5 R's are recycle, reuse, reduce, revive, restore. So all these, all these 5 R's actually will help us to manage the resources and to save our environment. Now let us see what these 5 R's are. The first R is refuse. Refuse to buy products that can harm you and the environment. So we must do that. We must refuse to buy products, right, which can harm the environment. We need to reduce, okay. The second R is reduce, and we need to reduce the means of to use less natural resources, like we have to switch off the electrical appliances when not in use, save fuel by walking, rather than using vehicles. So that is how we can reduce the use of natural resources. And the third R is reuse. That means that we need to use the things again and again, right? We need to use our old clothes again. We need to use everything like that we have, and instead of throwing away those things, we need to use them again and again for a long period of time, so that we can save our environment. So instead of throwing away used envelope, we can reverse it and use it again. So that is how they have said us, this is just an example how we can reuse. The next R is repurpose. So when a product can no more be used for the original purpose, think carefully and use it for some other useful purposes. So we need to repurpose all the things that that are not in use right now, and we need to repurpose them. We need to use them somewhere else. The fifth and the final R is recycle, which means that we need to process the waste to form new products. The waste that are formed, we need to process them, and we need to form new products from those wastes. Like for example, old paper or glass can be used for making new things. So these are the 5 R's: refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, repurpose. All these 5 R's helps us in saving the environment. For example, the plastic bottles in which you buy various food items like jam or pickle can be used for storing things in the kitchen. And for example, the cracked crockery or cups with broken handles can be used to grow small plants and used as feeding vessels for birds. So these are the very small examples from our day-to-day lives, and that is how we can actually use these 5 R's practically in our lives, right? Now we'll be talking about the sustainable development. So we have certain criteria of sustainable development. There are certain goals of sustainable development that we have, and we have made it globally, right? So we'll be talking about these goals. What are these goals of sustainable development? We have 17 sustainable development goals or SDGs, and they are goal 1, no poverty; goal 2, zero hunger; goal 3, good health and well-being; goal 4, quality education; goal 5, gender equality; goal 6, clean water and sanitation; goal 7, affordable and clean energy; goal 8, decent work and economic growth; goal 9, industry, innovation and infrastructure; goal 10, reduced inequality; goal 11, sustainable cities and communities; goal 12, responsible consumption and production; goal 13, climate action; goal 14, life below water; goal 15, life on land; goal 16, peace and justice strong institutions; goal 17, partnerships to achieve the goal. So these were the 17 sustainable development goals that we have internationally recognized, and then we'll learn about the concept of sustainable development. The concept of sustainable development encourages forms of growth that meet current basic human needs while preserving the resources for the needs of future generations. It depends upon the willingness of the people to change their perceptions to the socio-economic and environmental conditions around them, and the readiness of each individual to alter their present use of natural resources. So this is basically a concept which teaches us to manage the natural resources well and to help it preserve for the needs of the future generations, and also to fulfill the socio-economic and environmental conditions that exist right now. So this is just a very basic concept which has been introduced to save the environment as well as to sustain the human race for a long period of time.
Why managing our natural resources matters. Water, land, soils, food, air, minerals, and metals. Our whole civilization relies on them to survive. And yet, strong growth in the population, from 7 billion today to up to 9 billion by 2050, means increasing demand is depleting these vital resources. there is potential for serious scarcities in the years ahead. If current practices continue, water scarcity and contamination, desertification, air pollution, loss of biodiversity, and land degradation will be more critical in the years ahead. All of these eventually have an impact on human health.
Now we will be talking about. Now we need to understand that why we should save these natural resources and manage them. Because we all know that how we depend on the natural resources, and with the growth of population that is growing day by day, we can understand that the demands of the people are also increasing. So in order to cater to all those demands and to save the environment from exploitation of the resources, we need to have a way to manage these resources and use them wisely. So that is what the concept of sustainable development teaches us, and that is why we need to adapt the concept of sustainable development in our day-to-day lives. Now we'll understand the management of natural resources. Natural resources are not limited, but with the human population increasing at a tremendous rate, as we discussed just now, the demand for oil resources is increasing at an exponential rate. We know that, right? That how the population is increasing and the demands is also increasing, right? So the management of natural resources requires a long-term perspective so that these resources will last for the generations to come and will not merely be exploited to the hilt of short-term gains. So we should also ensure equitable distribution of resources so that all would get the benefit from the development of these resources. The damage we cause to the environment while these resources are either extracted or used should be carefully considered, and hence we need to manage the natural resources well with the help of the concept of sustainable development. Now we'll discuss the in-text questions. What changes can you make in your habits to become more environment friendly? Of course, we need to make changes in our day-to-day lives. And what changes can we make? Like there are certain very simple changes you can add your own. According to me, the changes can be that we need to segregate waste into recyclable and non-recyclable parts while we are, taking out the waste from our home. We need to segregate it. Waste segregation is very, very important. Then we can switch off the lights, fans, televisions, and other electrical appliances when not in use. So when they're not in use, we need to switch them off in order to save the energy. We need to use energy efficient electrical appliances. We should always try to use the electrical appliances that are energy efficient, and walk for nearby shops instead of using vehicles. You can walk to the nearby shops while few people use vehicles for doing that too, and that is really, really, that is not how you manage the resources, because you need to save the resources for your younger generations. Next we can do is that we can reuse paper, plastic and glass bottles. Also we can reuse water from washing machines for cleaning purposes. So these were the few steps that we can take in our day-to-day lives to become more environment friendly. The next question that we have is, what would be the advantages of exploiting resources with short-term aims? The advantage of exploiting resources with short-term aims would be self-centered satisfaction, as we know that all the humans, many species are self-centered maybe, and they can use the resources and exploit them. And if we do that for short-term aims, it is definitely not advisable, and it is definitely not good for the other residents of the planet. And they also provide immediate advantages, but these are very, very harmful for the long term goals. The third question that we have is, how would these advantages differ from the advantages by using a long-term perspective in managing our resources? So this way the resources can be used for the benefit of the present generation and also conserved for the benefit of the generations to come. And that is why these long-term perspectives are very, very important, and we need to manage our resources well. This ensures a uniform distribution of resources among the people, and it will help us to sustain on the planet for a longer time. The next question that we have is, why do you think that there should be equitable distribution of resources? What forces should be working against an equitable distribution of our resources? There should be equitable distribution of resources so that all rich, powerful, and poor people can get benefit from the development of these resources. Rich, greedy, and powerful people would work against an equitable distribution of our resources, and hence we need to ensure that all the people are getting the basic resources in an equitable manner. So that was all about the introduction of the chapter and about natural resources. Further, we will be studying more about these kind of resources in a detailed way. Thank you so much.